right now we have Graham Brenz from the Show Me Institute in studio. He is a policy researcher there. Thanks for joining us. He's come here to air his grievances, is what I understand.
Yeah, that's right. We can consider it that. And first off, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody listening.
To you as well.
Thank you very much. One thing of the many that I could air my grievances about.
We only have a 3-hour show.
Yeah, okay. So I will complain or grieve about the proposal to get taxpayers on the hook for $120 million to build a soccer stadium in downtown St. Louis.
Yeah.
Woo!
So will Jason. Jason will join the airing of grievances.
There we go. So for folks who don't know, there's been a proposal kind of boiling up for a while now. We've got some details to bring a Major League Soccer team to St. Louis. There's a group called SCSDL that wants to build a $200 million stadium just next to Union Station. The only catch is they need taxpayers to chip in $120 million and get all other sorts of bonuses.
$120 million of the what'd you say?
So there's $200 million for the stadium, and then there's another $200 million for what they call an expansion fee, which is just what they have to pay the MLS to join to get the rights for a team. So total cost of about $400 million. Stadium will cost $200. They want local and state taxpayers to chip in $120 million.
That's a pretty steep ask.
That is a steep ask, and it actually really came to the forefront in the news this week. Governor-elect Greitens said this is nothing more than welfare for millionaires and that he doesn't support this, and I have to applaud Governor-elect simply because he hit the nail right on the head with this. We've got stadiums being built all across the country for the past 20 years. Some of them are completely funded by taxpayers, some of them just substantially. And this is another one of those big projects that doesn't need help. The owners of this, potential owners are, millionaires. These are wealthy folks. They're willing to chip in $200, $300 million. They should be willing to chip in the rest for this.
So a lot of people will say that I think the devil's advocate here. And I will say, I wanted the Rams to stay in St. Louis more than anything. I was a huge Rams fan. I loved, and I put a D on the end of the word love, the NFL and football, and I would go to the games. My dad was a season ticket holder almost from, I think maybe even from the very beginning, when they came in the 90s. I wanted them to stay more than anything. And at the time, I was thinking to myself, when I was trying to justify what was being asked of us, and now we know that was all a lie, but sidebar, but people would lose jobs. People come to St. Louis on Sundays to go to the football game. They pay money to park. They pay money to buy concessions and beer, and people have jobs to sell those parking spaces and the beer and the ushers and everything. Is there an economic benefit locally to having a stadium here, or is the ask with that's a lot of money to ask of a municipality, of a city, of a region to pitch in. What is the justification for people who are these, if Greitens is saying welfare for millionaires, why do they say that the taxpayers should be part of this?
Well, that's right. They say exactly this much. They say we're going to get jobs, we're going to have economic growth in the region, and this is, the same tired song that every single stadium proposal says we're going to grow the economy, we're going to boost tax revenue, we're going to create jobs, and time after time after time, case study after case study shows there are no economic impacts of these stadiums. Here's my one ask of folks listening: just Google search, do stadiums grow the economy? And they will have pages and pages and pages of Google results that say this is a bad deal for taxpayers. There are no returns for taxpayers. The economists are they don't agree on much. Reasonable folks disagree on minimum wage, things like this. The one thing economists of any stripe can agree on is that stadiums don't boost the economy. We see activity at the stadium. We see people selling popcorn. Bringing folks to their seats, what have you, right? So we can create jobs, but when you run the numbers on this stadium deal, they're going to create roughly a total of 1,800 permanent and part-time and temporary positions. For the full public requests that these folks are asking for, it's going to be nearly $70,000 per job created. Wow. So that's pretty expensive, right?
What's the salary for one of these jobs when
it ranges everything from, part-time, low-wage jobs to a handful of nice jobs in the front office.
I had a quick question for you, too. I read a news story the other day that was speaking of Governor Nixon stating that it would be worthwhile to the residents of St. Louis to go ahead and put some of this money towards this development, because part of it would go to just cleaning up the area. So his statement, I think if I remember right, was even if the stadium does not become a reality, it would still be worth it for the citizens. Now, what's this all about? Do you have any information on that?
I think it's quite a fortuitous event. It's quite a coincidence that when this group is coming in to build a stadium that we say, oh, no, well, taxpayers need to spend $40 million here no matter what. It just so happens they want to, folks who want to build a stadium are coming and asking for that. And you know what? I think if a development there is really worthwhile, if it's really a profitable enterprise, someone in the free market will look at that land and say, you know what, I've got a great project for that. I can make money doing that. I'm going to build apartments. I'm going to do whatever. And they're going to take on those costs, and consumers will decide if this is a good investment or not. They'll get business or they won't. They'll flip, they'll profit or they'll fail. So maybe there's some state assistance that's needed there, but again, the free market is the best dictator in what investment should be made, not bureaucrats sitting in Jeff City or folks sitting in City Hall. Ordinary taxpayers like you and I, folks who buy stuff, who decide what to do, what to spend money on. We know what we need, what we want, and I say we let the free market decide.
So, what's the likelihood this project gets completed without taxpayer help?
That's an interesting question. So right now it looks like these SCSTL is more or less holding taxpayers hostage. They've said, it's very unlikely we'll move forward if we don't get this help. It's hard to make our numbers work if we don't get these subsidies. But just the other day we found out the expansion fee was slated for $200 million. They were saying, we're going to pay this all ourselves. We just found out it's going to be $150 million, so $50 million less. And you know what? They're still asking for the same amount of subsidies. They haven't reduced their ask from taxpayers to balance this out. So they talk about a commitment to the city. They talk about St. Louis being their home, a great soccer town. They want to protect taxpayers, be a steward of public funds. You know what we're seeing, actions speak louder than words, and we're seeing right now that it doesn't seem like they're as committed to taxpayers as they want taxpayers to be committed to them.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, it's obviously going to be something that we're going to be watching closely as it continues to develop here in the next days, weeks, months. Interesting that Governor-elect Greitens has weighed in on this, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out also in the future. We're speaking with Graham Renz, a policy researcher for the Show Me Institute, and tell us how we can continue to follow what you guys are doing, all the hard work you're doing, so people can stay up on the issue.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of stuff, a lot of material to read on our website, showmeinstitute.org. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on all the outlets. We are saying a lot about this. So.
All right. Well, Graham, thank you very much for your insight. It's definitely something that I think that people are really intrigued by and interested whether it's going to happen, because it really does affect everybody. When you're talking about taxpayer dollars, we're all taxpayers. If you've got dollars, you're paying taxes. So if it's income tax or sales tax or whatever it is, it's a pretty steep ask. We're going to continue to stick with it. So thanks for joining us. It's good to have you in.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much.
If you want to